Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you are. Welcome to another episode of the Community Live Stream, where I, Chuck Tomasi, the ServiceNow guy with the cool bow tie, comes to you, walks through stuff that I find in the community. That's what's behind me, our online community. I'll get to that in just a moment. And gives you not only the answers that at least I can hopefully provide or help in the right direction, but give you the thought process, the shortcuts, the architecture, the mindset that goes on behind those, so that I'm not just typing the answer into the community, which is very helpful. I encourage you to do that. But I'm going to add on some of the detective work that goes on behind that to help you in your daily lives as admins and developers. That's who this show is targeted towards. Help you do your job in the future. Sort of give you that consultation, that one-on-one time with me. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you for joining me. If you're watching live, we do this show every day. Let me make this a little smaller so that I can fit that up there. We do this show every day on YouTube at the URL you see right there. I think it's on that side. I do that every time. It's the typical weatherman thing when you're new to the screen. It's not mirrored, so it gets a little confusing. Go to the URL. You can subscribe and get announcements when the show is broadcast and other live content and other recorded content as it's uploaded to that channel. There's lots and lots of good content. In fact, I think I added about 6 videos yesterday, a couple more this morning. There's more coming all the time. A little secret hint, if you're interested, there is a new playlist called CreatorCon 18, which has recorded sessions of a lot of our CreatorCon sessions. I am processing that video. It came on multiple hard drives yesterday. I dug in and started processing that yesterday. So look for more of that. You will not get an announcement because I don't want to blast our subscribers with 40 announcements over a couple of days. Hey, there's a new video. Hey, there's a new video. Hey, there's a new video. But we will make an announcement in the developer newsletter, and they have links back to the online content here in the community. So very helpful stuff on that YouTube channel. If you find something in the next hour or so that you find helpful, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps others find that information as well. We also do this every day on Twitch. This is a daily stream as often as I can, as often as personal and work life allow me. Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. UTC. That is currently 6 a.m. here in the wonderful Binary Studios in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. And there are some people like watching on Twitch. Thank you very much for joining us there. We also watch on YouTube, as I mentioned before. What's next? Well, that would be... if you do have a comment, give me a shout out. Let me know where you're from. Say hi. How's the weather? That kind of thing. Put that in the comment on YouTube and Twitch. But if you have a more in-depth question around ServiceNow or an issue you're having, please go over to the community at community.servicenow.com and post it there so that others can partake, join in the discussion. Just make sure you put it in the correct forum so that you get the right audience. You want to make sure that you're targeting the right people for your question. You're not asking something about oranges when you should be in the Apple forum or the banana forum or wherever you want to be. Make sure you got that right and you get a better chance of getting a response to your question. Not everything is a developer question. That's the short answer. We will also be going to the developer site from time to time to look up scripting APIs. That's where they're documented, but you can also get a free personal developer instance. I encourage you to do that, running Istanbul, Jakarta, or Kingston, 3 of the latest releases. And when London comes out, we will have that available in, what's today? It is June 28th, 2018. I forgot to say that at the top of the show. And in less than a month, or roughly a month, I shouldn't give you an exact date because I don't know, we will have London available on those personal developer instances as well. So look for that. You can either request one when it becomes available or request to have yours upgraded and continue working as you like. It does take a little bit of time, an hour or so to get that upgrade done, but I encourage you to do that. There's also lots and lots of meetups around the globe. I encourage you to go to developer.servicenow.com and look for those. Good morning, Carolyn Ramsport. Good morning, Rahul. Good to see you again. Thank you very much. Carolyn says, yes, excited to see the videos this morning. Always looking for good ServiceNow videos. If you couldn't make it to CreatorCon, or you, like me, you were there, but you couldn't go to any of the sessions because you were working, this is wonderful stuff to see. I am very excited to sort of tease these videos out of a larger collection. I told a coworker yesterday, it feels like somebody dropped a side of beef on my porch. I got 5 hard drives with videos in various states of disarray, and some of them are just one big 4-hour recording with 4 breakout sessions in there. And it's my responsibility, my job to bring the audio levels up to acceptable and trim those so that when you click the link in YouTube, you start watching as if the presenter said, "Hello, good morning, my name is such and such." And that's not always the case. I had one that had 40 minutes of dead air in the front end. That would not have been very much fun to watch. There's one that's over 4 hours and it contains 3 or 4 videos within it. That wouldn't have been fun to find what you were really looking for. So yeah, it takes a little bit of labor, but it is a labor of love, and lots of great people have gone into getting this together, but it's mine to push over the finish line and get it to you. And again, if you're on developer.servicenow.com, you will get a newsletter with a link to all this wonderful stuff and more. There's a lot of recap about what happened at CreatorCon. Good morning, Snehal. Good to see you again. I have to make a mental association on some of these handles, these YouTube handles. So Cooking Fever is Snehal. All right, got it. Just like Todd is Mr. TV 2013. We'll get it figured out. If you want to know more about meetups, let me put that title away. You can go over to the URL you see there, meetup.com, and the ServiceNow Dev program has all the up-to-date meetups. This was updated Sunday night, so obviously a couple of them have passed. I hope you had a wonderful time at those meetups this week in Sacramento. Ooh, wish I could get up to Las Vegas. Oh, that would be so cool. I didn't check how many attendees they had, but it was growing. It was growing. And if you're interested in starting a meetup, of course, reach out. Our wonderful team would love to help you get that going. There may even be one in your area that has been sitting idle and just looking for leadership. So you could be a hero in that way. Cooking channel. A lot of people getting into cooking. I enjoy it myself, but this is not a cooking channel. This is ServiceNow. We're going to talk about ServiceNow. There are some other events that are coming up. Please watch for these and go to the events page, and you might find something of interest there as well. Look forward to that. If you're following me on LinkedIn or Twitter or I can't remember the third one. It's not YouTube. It's a European social network that I joined to help broadcast information over there. It's kind of like LinkedIn in Europe. Access. I'll remember it later and get that back to you. But anyway, if you're following me, you can get those updates as they happen. I usually do those several times during the day in the morning. It really depends on what our social media team has to offer me, but I want to share those with you as well. And a quick reminder that we're only a few short days away. It's the week after next. Next week is a holiday. Not sure whether or not. I haven't decided whether I will be doing an episode of this show on July 4th and 3rd and 4th? I forgot what days we have off. I'll have to look. Wednesday and Thursday. So that'd be 4th and 5th? Not sure if I'm going to be doing an episode there. Probably not. So Monday, Tuesday, Friday episodes likely next week. But the week after, we have a Tech Now episode coming up. Register at the link on the bottom. I encourage you to do that and appreciate it very much. So you can learn all about the script debugger and learn how to solve your coding problems fast. I just recommended it this morning before the show started to somebody else in the community. They were having an issue saying, my script didn't work. Aside from the obvious, you know what, I use sample variable names because I don't know your variables and tables and field names and all that good stuff. You do need to modify the code. You can't just take something off of the community and paste it into your instance and expect it to work. I'm sorry, that's not how it works most of the time, unless, of course, you provide exacting details. I said you may want to, after you check your variables and field names and make sure that's all technically correct, go to the scripting debugger and step through. Make sure you're getting what you expect. Very, very easy way to do. And I often forget it's there. But it is, and we're going to show you how to use it if you haven't used it before. And we can always use it as a reference on this series, right? As we go through and recommend things in the community, you can always link to Tech Now episode 54 after we get it posted, which will probably be a few days after the 10th. But if you want to watch it live, 10th, 8 a.m. Pacific time, you could see us there. All right, I'm going to mix things up a little bit and not to jump into new issues, but actually do a review of some of the things that came up yesterday after the broadcast was done, and last night and this morning. Some comments that I saw that I want to follow up on. I usually do this at the end of the show, but it feels like I'm trying to cram these all in and I don't always get them done. So I think it makes a little more sense to put these at the front as a follow-up, sort of like a listener feedback on a call-in show or whatever it is. Then we'll get into the new stuff. So bear with me. These are questions. Someone said, what is the best way to store an attachment in ServiceNow? And they said, I want to, users will click this link in an email and download the attachment. Now, I've seen this in a similar request for approvals. They say, I want the user to just click an approval and have it approved. Don't take them back to ServiceNow. Don't log in. I said, well, that's called an email reply. If you want them to click and do an approve, that leads into security issues. Now, think about this for a second. If the system sends, I'll use Carolyn as an example here. If the email sends Carolyn and says, hey, here is your template document that you need to use, okay, as part of some process. Maybe it's a document approval, doc control process. It says, here's the document you need. And it sends her an email with a link. It would be really nice if you click that link and it downloads it. Doesn't take you back to ServiceNow. Think about the security implications in that, because if she's not logging in, how does it know it's her? Right? You suddenly made your sysattachment table public. I would say that's a bit of a concern from a security standpoint, because if Carolyn forwards the email to me or whatever, it gets out in the wild, people are clicking this and getting potentially a secure document from the sysattachment table. That doesn't sound right. So be aware when people say, hey, can I send out an email and just have people click and have it approved? How does it know you are you if you don't authenticate? Or it's a light, I'd call this security light, authentication light. When you reply to the message, it says, oh, this email address belongs to this person, therefore I'm going to trust that this email came from that person. Now, you know and I know that you can do email header spoofing quite easily. I used to do this on my friends all the time. I can go to a telnet session, talk to an SMTP server, and start typing. This is from homer.simpson at, I can't even remember what the power plant name is, but you can make up headers and it will show up in your in the recipient's email box as that person from that company. So it's not the best, but it's the best that email can do. There's no password, there's no token, there's no nothing on email. But if you reply back to the email, I'm saying that is a method for approvals. For this download an attachment, I said, be careful. Be careful. I said, aren't you concerned with security at all? Remember, email has no method of authentication. Think of the experience you want to provide. And then I went through that same kind of thing. ServiceNow sends you an email. You have a login. Perhaps you're even logged in at that time, but then you forward it to me. I have no login. What do you want to do when Chuck clicks on a link to something from your instance? Are you just going to give me that file? Doesn't sound good. Okay. So think about that. That was a follow-up I had from yesterday. There is another one that I talked about a little bit last week on display values. I apologize for all this scrolling. It's kind of crazy, but it does get to the heart of the matter. A reference field on a request item. They have a script where they want to change the manager. Now, there's a couple of issues, a couple of questions that are not made clear in this. But they have a request item and they want to change the manager and said, how can I do that? Well, one is you write a short script, update the reference field, boom, bam, done. And they said, I was able to do it with a sysID. I'm going to find the script that he actually used. I recommended this one. This is from my code that I did the other day, and said, shortened up, I did that short version of add query, find it by number, do the query, then do the next operation. So taking 4 lines of code and crushing it down to, or 3 lines of code and crushing it down to 1. So I said, you can do a gr.get on any 2 fields. If you leave it as 1 field, it assumes you're using a sysID, but you can put 2 fields in there for an equality operator and say number equals whatever the RITM number is. This is one where they said they copy and paste and it didn't work. Then I said, use the set display value, because they had a hard-coded sysid in here. And I'd always discourage people from using hard-coded sysids, particularly on set value operations. Because when you're setting the value and you go back in that script, whether or not somebody put a comment in there, I don't trust that comment. I am always going to copy and paste that sysid and say, let's go to the sysuser table and look what sysid that belongs to. And it's just maintenance problems. I don't like doing that. Then the other case is what I mentioned last week, is use the set display value. Let me make that a little bigger for you. Use the set display value method. A lot more friendly way of doing this. And say, all right, set the manager to Fred Luddy. Wouldn't you rather do that? And then when you're reading code later, you can say, oh, somebody set the manager to Fred Luddy in this script. Now, I know this is a one-off script, and they're probably not going to read it again in 6 months. But in those cases where you've got a business rule or a scheduled job or some script include, don't put the sysid in there. It's a pain in the backside. Even when I'm doing properties, I will make a property and make the value a string, then put the display value in so that whatever script is consuming that property value is using service space desc for assigning it to a default group, for example, rather than the sysid of that group. Because somebody's going to come along later, probably me, in 6 months, and look at that script and say, what group is that? Yeah, the comment says service desk, but I don't trust it because programmers are lazy. They're not going to update the comments when the sysid changes. Oh, hey, change the default group from service desk to IT operations. Okay, copy, paste, done. I've made my update. Doesn't help. That comment is now obsolete and nobody trusts it, even though it says service desk. The sysid corresponds to IP operations. Okay. David is asking, is this recording or live? This is live if you are watching it between, whatever it is, 6 and 7 a.m. Pacific time in the U.S., 1 p.m. UTC. And then about an hour after I'm done, YouTube gets done processing it, will be available for watching later. We've got these online on YouTube dating back November 20th, 2017 is when I started. I'm coming up on 100 of these things. Had I not taken a few days off for personal leave, well, we might be over 100 by now. So set display value, always a good method to remember when you're setting those reference fields. Makes it easier to write, makes it easier to read, makes it easier to maintain. What's the downside? I don't know. Third one I've got is about table exclusions. They're doing a clone from production to a subprod instance, whether it's training, test, dev, and they said, I don't want my user table replicated. We've got security concerns about putting production data in subprod instances. Okay, I get that. But if you go into the clone exclusions, I'm going to go to my personal developer instance, and it timed out because I was talking for more than 30 minutes, or 30 minutes from the time I last logged in, because I already did this today. And I look at clone. There is this thing called exclude tables down here. And you could say, when I clone from prod to something else, the whole idea of cloning is to refresh your subprod data. So this part I don't quite understand, because they said, I want to make sure that my business rules and my script includes and my UI actions and my ACLs are all up to date in a subprod instance. I said, well, that's what the code promotion goes up, dev, test, prod. I'll keep it simple. And the data flows down via clone. So theoretically, dev should be in sync with test, should be in sync with prod. Now, I realize there are a lot of things in dev that get developed but never released, and that can cause some issues. It eventually creates this chaos and clutter and noise and potential issues with being out of sync. So you clone back down to prod, from prod to dev. All right? This set of tables says, do not copy what's in clone token. Do not copy what's in ECCQ. Do not copy what's in syslog or sysaudit. Those are very large tables often, And there's even a property or checkbox that says don't do, excuse me, don't do attachments. Okay, that takes a lot of time, and your clone will take longer the more data that it has to copy, obviously. If you just added sysuser to this, think of all the places that sysuser is mentioned, is used on task, on CMDB CI, on many of the subtables in there. I couldn't tell you. Well, yes, I can tell you. This instance was recently Z-booted, is what we call it, wiped out and restarted. So if I go to the dictionary, and you can find that under System Definition Dictionary, let's find out where the type is reference, and the reference is to user. There it is. How many places in a default instance reference user? 3019. Okay, so if you just said, don't clone my user table, what's going to happen when you pull up an asset record where it's looking for who it's assigned to, or who it's managed by, or who it's owned by, and those references aren't available? You get a blank field. You actually have a value in there, but it says I can't display anything. So the value is the sysid because it cloned your assets down from production. I said, well, no, then I don't want to clone assets. Well, now it's up to you to go through every one of these fields, every one of these tables, and I could say, all right, let's do this the easy way. Group by table. The answer is yes, you can do it. There's no out-of-box way to say, don't clone my, I'm going to call it transactional data, the data you put in and manage on a day-to-day basis. I now have 918 of these things. Is that how many groups this is? No. Yeah? Yeah. Crazy. I'd have to put in 918 tables just for sysuser. Now, if they said the same thing for task or any one of the subtask tables, that gets a little crazy. I recognize that it is a perfectly valid use case to say, I would like to image my instance, all of the configuration changes, all the tables, all the ACLs, all the fields, all the forms, all the business rules. Excuse me. Didn't hit the mute button. That's how you know it's live. If it was recorded, I would have edited that out. All of that stuff, that's a perfectly valid use case to say, bring all of that down. Unfortunately, there isn't a way to do that today. I gave them a link to the enhancement request. I think it's a great enhancement request. Our product managers do listen. Whether or not it gets implemented, I can't make that statement, commitment, promise, whatever you want to call it. So, whew. Good morning, Steve. Good to see you. Question. Chuck, can you help me? Issue I'm facing. I created notifications for incident using a business rule on insert and update and event, and notifications are triggering, but issue is it's triggering twice. I have seen that. Do a little searching in the community. I've seen that question come up before. I don't know why it is, but do a check. There's a reason behind it. I know that's been asked before, and I know it's been answered. So research before you ask. Otherwise, somebody's just going to refer you to one of the answers that's been asked and hopefully answered. So questions like that, again, if you're watching this live, thank you very much. Make sure you put questions about your incident, whether it's a business rule triggering notifications or something similar. Put that in the community. Then you get lots of people watching it. Not necessarily live, but you will get them with their eyeballs on it and contributing rather than me taking a swag at it. And it's easier for other people like Cooking Fever to find it later because it's already been asked. If somebody were to say, oh yeah, Chuck talked about that in a video, I think it was in February. Good luck. It's not very searchable by today's standards to go, where did Chuck talk about YouTube, email? Nah, that's no fun. The community is a great system of record. So recommend you hop on over there, which is where we are going. I think that takes care of the three that I was asking about. Discussion about the cloning data is over. Oh, a couple other things I want to talk about is the certificates. I've gone to LinkedIn in the last few days and seen people, they're very proud of their certified sysadmin certificates. And I am too. Congratulations to everyone who's been sysadmin certified or one of the other certifications that we offer. We have a great training team. We have a great curriculum. I encourage you to go to the ServiceNow page. If you're interested in that sort of thing, go to the servicenow.com page, look for training, and we can get you set up with that. Whether you are just starting out or you want to bolster your education and grow more in the ServiceNow ecosystem, make yourself more marketable, get that next higher paying job, etc., etc. But please don't post pictures of your certificates on LinkedIn. Unless you take the proper precautions, you might as well just put a check or your credit card on there, because that's about how secure it is. We have had incidents of people forging those things. They will take it directly from LinkedIn, replace the person's name with their own, and try and pass it off. Now, I don't know of a way of validating these things. If it's out there, I don't know about it. And if I don't know about it, do you think employers and recruiters do? And they're saying, let me check this number against Chuck Tomasi and see if he truly is who he says he is. I don't think that sort of validation is happening. They're just going, wow, this person's certified. They've got the certificate, done. If that's as easy as it is, true, we could make the system a little easier and socialize that we've got a validation system that they type in a number or they type in a name and say what number goes with that. I don't know how that would work, but I will double check to make sure such a system, if it exists, I'll let you know. But take proper internet precautions. That is private information. I would consider my certificate private because it associates a number with my name. If you really feel like bragging, go ahead, but blot out the number. You can do that with a number of free applications. Just black bar over it. You can do that with MS Paint, for crying out loud. Just take that out so that people can't forge that number. The number becomes meaningless. From what I've seen, the number system has changed. It's gotten longer. Either that or we have hundreds of thousands of people who are now certified, whereas it was tens of thousands before, or it started at 10,000. I don't remember where the numbering system started. So, talking about the certificate, Raul, or you're talking about the business rules? I talked about a couple of things in the last few minutes. I'm just catching up on the comments. Put in a SysID in the question so you can answer. Oh, if you've got a link, if you've already posted in the community, just copy the SysID over and I will do my best to find that on the community. I'm working on 2 different systems, so I'll try to get that in. So again, be cautious with your private information. This isn't just a ServiceNow thing. This is with any information. Don't just post things on the internet. I know it's a very exciting time and it's a landmark in your career when you get that certificate, but be cautious about that, of what you're doing. Another one is I think I showed this before. This feels very familiar, but if I didn't, if you're just joining me, then if you've seen this before, hang out for a little while. This is about formatting code. I'm going to go into, it doesn't matter if it's a script include, I'll do a business rule this time. Business rule, I can get there by typing any partial. I think I showed this before. You don't have to type business space rule up in this filter. You can type any partial of the letter and it will find it. It's a contains kind of search. And system business rule, I'm in the global scope. Make sure I am where I think I am. Yeah, be careful with the certifications. Thanks, Raul, for clarifying that. If I'm writing a script, I'm going to go into advanced real quick. Somebody pointed this out. We are using the tiny MCE editor for our scripts. And if my formatting looks like garbage, maybe I copy and pasted it from somewhere else. var incgr equals new glide record incident, right? The auto indent is going to try its best to help out. But let's say it wasn't so good at add query, add active query. Sure, that'll work. You know, add active query doesn't work in scoped applications. You have to type active true. You have to do a regular add query. incgr.query works for me. Auto-completion is nice. Now, I can, some of you are aware of this, incgr.query. Let's just put something in the loop. Wonderful code here. And if my indentation is a big old mess, let me move that up so you can see it. And I'll make it a little larger so you can see it a little better. My code is a mess. You can use this icon to format the code, and it will, if you hit the icon, it will do the indentation. Very nice. However, that icon is not available in Service Portal. When you're dealing with your HTML, you're dealing with your client scripts, you're dealing with your server script. So, somebody pointed out they were going through this wonderful code right here, and they were setting up an object and doing a.name equals Chuck. Seemed to be mostly around the objects. Now, I had this problem when I would put comments out here. Same line comment. I was having indentation problems with that icon as well. Age equals 21, right? Status equals married. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm setting up this object, and then I can say if a.name, go into the if loop, and say gs.info, hello, a.name. Right? So I got some code, and it's all based around this object. And what they said is, when I hit format code, it indents underneath this object. And I can kind of get this, why it's happening. They think you're going to be setting up an object and maybe it's got some values in here, like name, Chuck. I know, single quote, double quote, make up your mind, Chuck. And it didn't like that. I'm going to leave that off. If I format now, it works. So it's trying to assume that that is there. But if you just leave it as a blank object, it gets a little confused when they're both on the same line. I get that. Or it's seeing the curly brace and going, hey, wait a minute, if statements do this, while statements, then a curly brace means I should start indenting, right? TinyMCE is ever so slightly confused. They also said, if I replace this with new object, it works fine. We don't have an issue. But you always have this little hanging thing out here goes, no, object isn't the best way to do it. You should use the curly braces. That's the modern notation. So what's the answer? The answer is actually a workaround. And I found this quite by accident. Let's go back to the case where things are a little, oops, not that wonky, this wonky. And I say, let's reformat. And it goes, boom. All right. What you can do is select all. I don't know if it's Control A or Command A, whatever computer you're using or however you're doing this, select all of it. And then instead of format code, hit Shift Tab. Why there's two different methods of doing this, I don't know. I did this quite by accident, and this is why I didn't believe the person at first. I said, what are you doing? And they had said, I clicked the little icon, and it doesn't work. And I said, whoa, that's it. I'm not clicking the icon. I've gotten into the habit of doing Shift-Click because there's no icon in Service Portal. I've been doing Shift-Click, and this works for a partial as well. So if I see that this is messed up, I can select just that part. Anything that is messed up, let's get from the start of the mess to the end of the mess, and Shift-Click, and it leaves everything else unaffected. So if this was mashed up, I could still do a Shift-Click here, and this part is unaffected. Get the idea? But since I want that, I'll do a Select All, Shift-Click, Fixed. So you can fix your indentation on part of it or all of it using Shift-Click, and it works better than the icon. Doesn't mess up around the curly braces, doesn't mess up on the other stuff, so far as I've seen. Now, again, TinyMCE, probably a third-party library. I don't know how much of this is our code, how much is third-party, but that's my workaround, and I always encourage keyboard shortcuts when they're available. Keep your hands on the keyboard, you will move faster. If you're constantly moving your hands between the keyboard and the mouse or keyboard and a trackpad, you're wasting time. Okay, learn keyboard shortcuts, kid. If you can learn yourself a new keyboard shortcut, one new shortcut a week, you will be a master of productivity. You will save yourself, quite literally, hours a year in lost productivity. It's amazing. Just a few, you go, well, that's only, what, a half a second? add up the half a second as you move between your keyboard and your mouse. It's crazy how much time that is. All right, there's some tips. Am I going to get to any community content today? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's do a quick refresh of the screen, bring things back up, and see how far we get in the next, 25 minutes or so. Thank you for joining me. Again, this is the community live stream. Let me know, was that helpful to put the review and the tips at the front end? I'll try to come up with those every day. I can't promise I have them. Sometimes there are no replies. Sometimes traffic is slow. Sometimes traffic is hot. All right. Where was I going? Let's start with a couple of unreplied. We'll start with something fresh, see what's come in, see what's new, see what's hot. And I have one in the inbox. That little red thing is nagging me, just like the alerts on applications on your phone. Has anyone ever created a flat file or a way of reporting on the questions and answers table where all the records are in one row? A flat file. I have created a flat file. And if I bring up my other instance, I'm back to Chrome, by the way. I figured out what the issue was earlier this week, or was it late last week when I switched to Firefox? There was an add-in, an extension called the ServiceNow Utilities or something like that was just driving Chrome berserk, so I turned it off. I'm going to log in here. Trying to remember what the password was on that instance. The TechNow application that I've been writing now has all episodes dating back to time immemorial. And as we complete these episodes, we get, let me look at my completed ones. I wrote a UI action to take questions from the question and answer table and create a flat file that I can post into the community. So after we're done, we get an Excel spreadsheet. I import it into ServiceNow. I take those and answer them in ServiceNow, and then I export them. So my question for Guided Tour Designer looks like this. We had 1,368 attendees. They asked at least 465 questions. I eliminated things that were like, thanks, and yeah, I can see your screen, that sort of stuff. And then from there, I use this UI action to generate this HTML attachment, questions.html. And it's really not that sophisticated to do this. I was surprised how easy it is. Of course, I looked at an example. I suggest if you're learning something new, see if there's already a UI action out there that does something similar, and then start tearing apart the API. But the API for mine was go get all the questions, stick them in an object, push them into an array of objects. Why do I do that? So, I don't know. So that I can iterate over the array rather than iterating over records. Then I take each object and create the text of what I want. In my case, it's the name, who asked it, the answer, who answered it. Very simple, not very formatted, very beautifully. I'll put that to the log. I really shouldn't be doing that right now. And then do a sysattachment gr.write. Now that is set up here from sysattachment. I'm going to copy that and put it in here. I don't know if this is what they're asking for. Flat files from reporting generally aren't done. I don't know of a way to do a flat file from reporting or PA, but I have created one via script and attached it to the current record. I have a related list of questions that I answer after every episode of TechNow. You know what? I want to put in, I created a UI action to generate the attached file and place it on the record. It looks like this. Feel free to use it as an example. Let's put the code snippet in the code snippet thingy as JavaScript. Paste. There it is. Make sure there's nothing egregious in here. The secret sauce is glide sys attachment using the write function. Now, if it's really, really big, I believe you want to change to like write stream output or something. I'd have to double check. Put that there, and then the secret ingredient is glide sys attachment. It's not just for copying anymore, kids. Many people, I won't say a lot of people, many people are familiar with using glide sys attachment to copy attachments, which is fine. I'd be cautious where you use that. It's a lot of, it could possibly consume a lot of disk space. If you were using it, say, in a business rule and say, hey, every time I get an attachment on a catalog task, I want to replicate that attachment to the parent request item. You could have a lot of attachments on the parent request item, and you could be taking up a lot of disk space using attachments. So be careful. Somebody puts a 10 meg attachment on there, and that happens 10 times a day. You got 100 meg, and that happens. You do the math, figure out what your use case is before you start messing around with attachments. I don't know how I got sorry. I tend to. That's what this show is. It's just free thought, and hopefully you'll find some of it useful, inspired by stuff on the community. So if you want to take a look at that again, it's not that complex of a script. Again, I'll go through it. If you're not a big scripter, there's a couple of things in here that make it interesting. Let's put a little color formatting on there. I'm going to say it's JavaScript, just so you can get a little hint of what I do. The first thing I do is I instantiate a new glide sys attachment object. This has various functions in it to help me do what I need to do. I'm going to declare an empty array called list. Poorly named, but it's kind of like I is a counter variable. For me, list is an array. Then I go through the records in my table. This is my question table where all of the records that are related to the current episode and are not duplicates, because I had the same people asking, when is Guided Tour Designer going to work with Service Portal? When will Guided Tour Designer work with Service Portal? Does it support Service Portal? And I just said, you know what, I answered it once, I'm not going to answer it again. So I just filter out the duplicates. Then for each record that I find, I create an empty object each time, populate the name, the question, the response, and who responded by. These are just fields from that question record that, note, I'm using getValue, so I'm not getting an object on top of an object. This is an object, and first name is an object. If I put that into name, I would have an object within an object, and that's not what I want. I want to print the value. And in some cases, I need to use getDisplayValue. So I want that person's name, like Chuck. Now, this one, I need to change this now. I've changed the data structure because the question not only has the first and last name, but it also has a reference back to the attendees. Attendees is a new table that came along after I created this script. So I should be able to reference qgr.attendee.getDisplayValue and do that in one statement. But that'll work much better. All right, then I start constructing my text. What is the body of this file going to look like? For every record, true, I could have put these together and created text in here rather than object. I like doing this. It allows me to see the data before I actually process it. I do it in 2 steps. I tend to be a little overboard on variables. I think it makes it easier to read. I think it makes it easier to debug. I could obfuscate this by crushing these 2 loops together. I did not. I want to debug this, and I build my code slowly. I build it piece by piece. Make sure that I'm getting the right records. How many did I get? First thing I do is build the query and just make sure I'm getting an accurate count. Did I get those 456 records? If I did, great. Let's take a look at them. Did I get too many? Did I get too few? And then build up from there, little by little. I did not write this all in one sitting and go bam, 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 bam. Now let's try and debug. That's not productive. Okay. For every record that I find, I'm going to go through, and another thing I like to do is, instead of referencing, especially when it's buried down deep in it, like when you get a JSON package return from a REST API, your data structure may be something dot something dot subscript dot something dot something. It's like, whoa, that just, it's pretty deep. And I don't like typing that over and over and over again. Not even in this case. I could have put list sub I here. Oops, try that again. Here on item, here on item. These could all be list sub I dot response, list sub I dot response, list sub I dot response by. I think it makes it easier to call out that variable. Again, it takes one whole variable and it makes the code a little easier to read, a little easier to debug, a lot easier to type. And in my mind, I'm dealing with one single item. The other option I could have done is a for each loop and said for each item in list. Okay, that would have worked too. I generally don't know why, I don't gravitate towards for each unless it's a hash array. When there's a numerical index, I like to do the for I. Call me old-fashioned. I've been programming for 35 years. That's just the way I am. That's my style. You have your own style. Whatever they teach you in school, keep using it if it works. Okay? That's just a quick walkthrough of my code. Then once I've got text all built up, I'm just concatenating more text on top of more text on top of more text with the plus equals. And it's building up this great big text string, which I can output to the log, make sure that it's working. Again, I should probably take that out. It's no longer needed. Then I use my sys attachment. I call it GR. It's not technically a glide record. But I take my sys attachment and use the write method. And then I follow along with what the documentation gave me. It said, what do you want to attach this to? What do you want to write? I want to write this file called questions.html. It's going to be this type, which is a MIME type. If you're not familiar with MIME types, it just says to the system, what type of file is this? Is it an image / JPEG? Is it an MP3 file? Whatever file type it is needs to be defined. Is it going to crash without it? No. What do you want to put in it? Text. And where do you want to attach it? Because glide sys attachment is all about managing files on the sys_attachment table. So I am attaching this record, this output file, to this current record. Because it's running in a UI action, I have the object current. I don't have to look it up. This is a glide record. And then I say, stay on this form, which is very common for a lot of UI actions, whether it's a button or related link. So I found that helpful. I found it fun. If you find it helpful, make sure to click the like button. Who knows what you're going to learn in this and where my brain is going to go as we go through these things. Is that the first thing I've answered? It's 10 to the hour. That's all right. It's Thursday. It's a busy day. Life is good. Let's go to unsolved. See if we can find anything else that's new we can pick on. Can I use a wait timer inside a workflow to generate an additional task on the 6th day after the request was opened? The answer is yes, you can. How's that for an answer? I'll be short. See, there's a couple replies. You can use a timer activity with below settings. And the image says a date, time, or duration field created sometime after. So your field is, say, created. Did they say created? I need to have an additional task in my workflow generate on the 6th day after the request was open. I want to know if wait time would be feasible. Are there any risks of or anything that I would need to be concerned about doing it this way? If it's not feasible, does anyone have any solutions? No, that's exactly what the timer activity was built for, is to wait a specific time, either based on a field value or what you say or somewhere in that. You can have it. I wasn't a big user of timer activities until about a year ago when I started writing a demo application that needed it. The situation was, hey, we're going to make like a meetup.com application on ServiceNow. And I wanted a reminder to that invite. I know from personal experience that more people go if you remind them a day or so beforehand. Hey, don't forget you signed up for this event. And I often get those. I go, I did? When did I do that? Oh, yeah, I did. I still want to go. But I would have forgotten all about it if they said on Thursday that the event is on Friday and I didn't get a reminder. So send out a reminder. 24 hours before the event starts. I had a start and an end date on there. And then maybe a day after you say, hey, how was it? Post pictures. Those are great examples of using the timer activity. Here's another one. And they say the timer is based on a date/time or duration field. The field is created, and there's a number of things you can base this timer on. Could be a user specified duration. Wait 3 days. So when the workflow gets to that point, it says, I'm just going to sit here for 3 more days, or 20 minutes, or whatever it takes. Craig Stepp uses this when he provisions instances because he wants to wait until all the plugins have been activated, all the data is installed, all the post-install scripts have run. Okay, a new instance has been stood up, but that doesn't mean I'm going to send out the email saying it's ready to log in right away. There's stuff that needs to calm down, settle down, whatever you want to call it. And then he waits 20 minutes before he says, your instances are ready to go. Have fun with your training class or whatever it is. Okay, that should fit your needs. Just know the timers run on event process, so there might be a 1 to 2 minute delay in the event timer processing. If you're dealing with 6 days, 1 to 2 minutes shouldn't be a big deal. I haven't spotted too many problems, but I don't work on full-on production instances where the event queue can have a backlog. So good info. I concur. I'm going to mark that helpful. Great use case of that. Takes a long time for that helpful link to respond. Good on you, Mike Patel, for getting that one. String type versus choice type field. This should be interesting. Hi all, while creating a choice type field or a string type field, I felt both field types display the same way. Drop down with respective choice values. Can I know what is the major difference between these two type fields and how are they different from each other? I'm asking this question because we have this inbound email ingestion. When I tried hard coding to those two fields, string type field displays perfectly where choice type field is creating another choice in a blue color. What to understand the major difference? All right, please see this link. Ooh, we have a cross link from community post to community post. Very helpful if it's the right answer. String versus choice field. The accepted solution was, I would recommend always using string field as the field type, even when making a drop-down choice list. There is no true difference that I'm aware of to use choice. There's a greater benefit to keeping this type as string when thinking about the future. Whenever a field type is changed, any existing data stored in that field is lost. If you ever want to remove the choice list and have free-form text in the future, your existing data will not be lost. If you ever want to remove the choice list, if you use string. All right, I am going to test that theory. What do you say? Because this is all about experimentation. What they're saying is if you start with string, you have more flexibility. If you start with choice is a predefined value. In choice, you can limit the choices, but string can be any text entered. They're given a very generic description of the two. What they're saying is, hey, how come when I look at the dictionary, and see if I can find this real fast. Sys dictionary. I know last time I just typed dictionary and I went to system definition dictionary. Yes, I want to leave. I want to get rid of all that wonderful script that I wrote. And I say table equals task. See if I can find it real quick. I don't think category is in here. I think that's an incident table. My mistake. Let's go to incident. Incident has category, which is a string. Odd, because wouldn't you think that was a choice? It represents itself as a drop-down. So if I look at this, fundamentally, they're right. There is no difference. At the database level, it is stored as a varchar, or varchar2. I can't remember which one it is. I haven't looked in a while. But this is a type string. But the definition says, I want to show it as a choice list with none. Now, if I left it as none, it would show up as a plain old string field. And then somebody would have to type what their category is, and you never get a script to match that. So the main difference is in that how that field is being represented. It's just like when you make a reference field, you can have a reference field represented as a choice with a drop-down. Just don't use a long table. I could get into that, but I'm not going to. Okay, so this is in a string field. You can enter any string only. The choice field, yeah. So now I have to summarize what I just blathered on about. Technically, at the database layer, they are the same. They are both represented and store strings. I believe varchar in MySQL. Don't quote me on that. I have to look. The difference is in the way they are presented. If you look at incident.choice in the dictionary, in system dictionary, you'll find it's a string. But I don't even know what that thing said. Choice list specification. Good thing it was in the copy paste buffer. Choice list specification says to show it as a choice field. All right, now going back to my theory, if I change this to none, let's see what happens. Let's go back to incident. I have that as a favorite. Incident open. Pick one that's open, and I should see that now as a string field. Look, it's a string. I don't have my drop down anymore. Category is a big old mess. So let's configure the dictionary on that. It is a string field. It's a string. Can we take a update without none? It had a default value, right? Yes, it did. Inquiry. Let's find one in the dictionary that has a dictionary entries, table incidents. Let's find one that is of type choice. Do I have one? Probably not an incident. I used them all up. I don't know. Then let's take that out. Yes, I could have done that with one click. Let's take a choice field. Pick a table that I'm kind of familiar with. I don't do asset management too much. Not that that should matter for what we're doing, but let's take CMDB CI availability zone, or maybe task.state. Let's find that out. Does task have any choice fields? Task has no choice fields. Interesting. Oh, task.state is an integer. Shown as a choice. So you can also do this with integer fields. There's evidence. Any table. All right, I've given up. I'm just going to take whatever comes up first. CMDB CI availability zone. Sounds good to me. Let's take a look at that. It's currently a choice. And down in the choice list specification, it says drop down with none. If I change that to none and update it, pull up a record. State field should be on a fairly easy to find record. I have, pick a new record. It's probably going to fill in a default. Where's my state? Configure form layout. Terrible demo. I don't even have the fields that I want on here. Crappy old thing. It's probably inherited and doesn't want to use it. Okay. Oh, look at that. Hang on. Maybe that's not the state field that I was thinking of. Maybe it came from somewhere else. No, it's from availability zone. It's a choice. And I said, did I not say show that as none? It won't allow me. Aha! We have found an interesting... See, this is all the exploration part of this. Choice fields won't let you define it as a string, but a string can be either. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. The difference is the way it's presented. If you look at the incident.choice, this is the dictionary, you'll find it's a string. But the choice list specifies showed as a string field. If you choose, you can set this field to none, and it will display as a string. Because it's a string! Conversely or inversely? I need a grammarian. On the other hand, that's the cheater way out. If you can't think of the right word, use a different phrase. A choice field cannot be represented as a string. If you try to set the, what's the field name? Choice field in the image below to none, when the type field is choice, it reverts back. There we go. Top of the hour, we solved the mystery. I didn't know that. I often wondered that myself. Never went so far as to do the experimentation, but that's why I like this show. It gives me the opportunity to look into that. I feel a little older and a little wiser today, and I hope you do too. That takes us to the end of the top of the hour. Hope you found that useful. If you did, go ahead and click the like on the video, and thank you for joining me. Hope to see you again here tomorrow if all the stars line up and things work out for you. If you do learn something today, be sure to go and share it with somebody somewhere, sometime, somehow. Keep it in your briefcase full of useful tidbits, and you will be a hero. Until tomorrow, I wish you all the best. Take care